Hi, everybody. This is Ernesto, licensed marriage and family therapist, and I am the owner of filmit.com. I hope you've been following me for a while, but I'm so excited about this interview with my friends. They're not my friends just because they're higher up in the world of psychotherapy or they're important or because Kurt has a really cool looking beard right now.
That beard.
But they're
That
my
beard
friends.
has a life of its own.
Exactly. But they're my friends, and I'm saying they're my friends because they do a lot of great work in the community. And we got something here that I want to promote for all of you called the Therapy Reimagined Conference, right?
Yep.
Wait, did I
Yes.
say that right? I did, right?
Well, it is more than just a conference. It's
It
a
really,
hashtag therapy movement.
exactly. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have Katie and Kurt introduce themselves first, and then we'll go into this conversation. And the call to action here is for all of you to sign up. We're just being upfront. I'm going to be upfront with it. Sign up. We want you there. There's a lot of great things for you to be involved with and watch. So, Katie, introduce yourself.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Katie. So I'm Katie Vernoy. I'm also a licensed marriage and family therapist. I am in practice in Torrance, but more importantly, I am a podcast co-host with Kurt Woodhelm. We have the Modern Therapist Survival Guide podcast, and we are starting a therapy movement. It's starting first in Los Angeles. It's a conference, I guess, but I feel like it's more than just a conference. It's Therapy Reimagined 2018.
Yes.
And Kurt and I talk about how you can navigate hashtag modern therapy problems because things have changed since therapy began. And so we want people to have the tools they need to continue forward and to strengthen our profession.
Yes, yes. Kurt?
I'm Kurt Woodhelm. I'm in practice in the West Los Angeles and Encino areas, and super excited about the message that we're bringing in, because this is something where when we first came up with this idea of Therapy Reimagined, and what it means is that it's a lot of the discussions that we've heard seasoned clinicians having that we're bringing together, and we're actually trying to do something about it. We're trying to make it to where it's fun to be a therapist, that it's responsible to be a therapist, and that you don't necessarily have to be ground through the system of therapy and to have a burnout story in order to be successful.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned that, Kurt. And Katie, thank you so much for being on this interview. And the reason why I believe in this conference is two things. One, Katie and Kurt and I have been in conversations with psychotherapists for a long, long time. And we've been very mindful of the movement of psychotherapy and some of the things that is being talked about and not talked about, right? Mm-hmm. There's so many things in our profession that we want to bring forth at this conference. The other thing, too, is that this is a conference where diverse, creative approaches to psychotherapy and conversations are all held in one room for a few days. Mm-hmm. And that in itself will help open up this world for you where you can choose and not feel guilty to be choosing where you want to go with your practice or what you want to be aware of. If I think, Katie, the both of you guys did a podcast on activism, and social justice. You guys also are bringing forth about legal and ethics. I know that I spoke with Ben a few days ago, and Ben Caldwell, our conversation off camera was about how a lot of these creative approaches to psychotherapy and talking about the legal and ethics of that. I love that type of conversations. So here's some of the things that I want to ask the both of you. What is the goal for this conference be? So let's say a clinician is on the fence about deciding on going. What are they going to expect as a goal for them?
I think one of the driving things is that throughout my career, I've been to a number of different conferences, a number of different workshops, and had a lot of information just kind of thrown at me that just kind of bounces off of me. And I might go and look at these handouts when I get home 5-6 weeks later, a year later when I'm cleaning out my office. One of the things that we are really, really stressing to all of our speakers is that it needs to have experiential components to it. Yep. That we want people to stay engaged, and we want people to stay involved throughout the 2 days. So that way they're taking something, they're walking out of the conference with something that's going to benefit them as a clinician and their clients as soon as they get home.
So it's a tangible approach, right, to a conference.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's really impacted by Kurt's short attention span, because we have short form. So we're trying something new, and I actually have to give props to Miranda Palmer, who's going to be part of the conference too. But she was like, I think you should do TED style talks and do this kind of stuff, and we're like, whoa, that's a great idea. So it's like we've got a lot of speakers who are doing really concise, powerful talks about the profession, about the business of psychotherapy, and then also about the whole person of the therapist.
Yeah.
And so those are going to be, everyone's in the same room for those, and we're going to be talking about state-of-the-art stuff. And we have a lot of speakers that we're able to see because we're doing these really tight, really powerful talks. And so that's exciting. And that's Kurt's short attention span. He can't pay attention for longer than about 15
obviously.
And I think that would probably help you too, Ernesto, probably, because it's like lots and lots of information. It's super exciting. But then the longest talks we have are 90 minutes. And they, like Kurt was saying, they're absolutely experiential. Like, we are not going to let folks just sit and talk and talk and talk. Like, we're getting into it, and we're talking about things that I think typically aren't talked about in a continuing ed kind of format. We're talking about business, we're talking about the profession, but we're tying it to how that impacts the clinical, how it impacts our clients. And then we also are talking about how to develop ourselves as clinicians, because we are the implement of change. We're the people who do the stuff. And so we have a mindfulness meditation practice. We have a deliberate practice session. And we do have some breakouts, so people might have to make some choices. But the stuff is all really about you. It's very different because it's stuff you can implement. It's stuff that's really important. It's stuff that you're not learning elsewhere, except maybe in some of these online webinars and stuff like that. But it's stuff that is really about how to make you better as a professional, as a clinician, and just in your life. Because like Kurt said, so many people burn out, and we lose us clinicians. We need them. We need everybody.
The movement and the profession of psychotherapy was one-dimensional. You just talk about clinical. You just talk about treatment. You talk about legal and ethics and all of those things. But this conference, for all of you who are watching, this conference is actually merging so many disciplines together. The business, the everything to marketing, also from different approaches to strategizing, helping your clients. And what Kurt is saying is that when you leave this conference, you've got something tangible, not only inspirational, but also tangible to be taking with you to help directly with your clients, right? We need to have these conversations. There's uncomfortable conversations, but these are comfortable. These are conversations we nonetheless have to have, wouldn't you guys say?
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I mean, I think that's the thing that we really are hoping for, because a lot of the folks who are coming, we've got people coming from across the country. We've got Maureen Warbach coming to talk about how to start a group practice, all the way from
I freaking
Chicago.
love her. Okay, she's amazing. When I saw her picture on the pamphlet, I was like, yes.
But we also have Ebony Harris from Melanin and Mental Health, who's going to be talking about how to have multiple income streams. I mean, there's people who are coming from all over the place, and we're going to be in the same place. And then we've got Kelly and Miranda, who always are talking, on webinars and in their boot camp, but they're going to actually be in person and part of these conversations. And so for me, it's about creating community, in-person community that then can really expand out. Obviously, we've got our Facebook group, so people can join us and join the movement there. But being able to come together is one of the things that's super exciting to me.
Yeah. Before we move on, for those of you who are watching, please click on the link anywhere in this video or on the YouTube channel or any of my promotion for this conference. Check out the website and register as soon as possible, because this is going to be a really life-changing, for me, a really life-changing conference. And, I love conferences like this because it shifts the dynamics of the regular conferences that you will be attending in the future. This is really different from anything you will be experiencing. The main thing about this is there's so many professionals and experts in different fields. Like you talked about People will be talking about how to use psychotherapy, yoga and psychotherapy. You're going to talk, people talk about webinars. Yeah. And you'll have people who do podcasts to promote their practice and also bring out content. And with me using video blogging, promotional video, live streaming videos, and how to empower yourself to use these forms and these platforms of avenues to get to your community. Mm-hmm. So here's my next question. Okay. From your perspective, what are some of the things that you know we need to talk about other than, you know, the regular psychotherapy conversations? And I know that you guys had a few somewhat controversial podcasts, or at least thought-provoking podcasts about some of these subjects. What's your thoughts?
One of the big ones that a lot of therapists and a lot of people involved at the decision-making levels of therapy, whether it's education, whether it's legislation, is that coaching versus therapist conversation. Mm. And when we look at the way that consumers are approaching the decisions of how to make changes in their lives, we are at a critical place in psychotherapy of either staying stuck with what the market of consumers of therapy are choosing to ignore, mm-hmm. or adopting new things that the consumers are asking for in order to remain a viable profession.
Like mic drop, right? Is that what happened?
Pretty much, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've definitely have this thought that if we don't make changes, our profession is really hurting. And obviously you've already talked to Ben, but Dr. Ben Caldwell is going to be talking about saving psychotherapy. We've got some folks talking about how to really be thoughtful in how you market, how you do things. You're one of those folks. I think one of the other things that's somewhat controversial is not holding yourself back. I think we need to have boundaries, but I think, you know, I was trying to avoid saying blank slate, but blank slate, like we should not be held to this blank slate anymore, because we can't. You know, so many of the therapists who are coming into the profession had a social media profile before they knew they were going to be a therapist.
Right.
Like, you know, I'm old enough that I signed on to Facebook the first time and I was already a therapist. So, you know, I don't have that issue, but there's so many people that already have a presence that they need to be thoughtful about how they put themselves out there. And so bringing yourself into the room, whether it's your specific, you know, cultural or gender or whatever diversity, it's also, if you have political activism as a passion of yours, saying, go for it. It's good. It helps our profession. It helps your clients. And so it's talking about how do we honor who we are as whole people.
Yeah.
And still bring ourselves into the room, bring ourselves into the conversation, and do that with a clinical and legal and ethical eye. Because I think oftentimes people will either be the blank slate and like, you know nothing about me. And why would you ask that question about me? And it's like, well, clients don't like that.
No.
Or they're disclosing everything all over the place. They're, you know, kind of out there doing stuff that they're not being thoughtful about. So we want to actually have the conversations about how do you honor yourself as an individual with all that you bring to the table, and you feel safe about sharing what you share. Yeah. It's clinically appropriate, and it follows the laws and ethics, and identifying sometimes when we need to advocate.
And you know, this is a good segment, because this conference, like many conferences, but this conference really welcomes and normalizes the feeling of being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think this is the way we secretly feel uncomfortable behind the screen on our social media, on our feeds, but we're bringing it in the forefront. And being uncomfortable is actually where we come up with our creativity. And the more we run away from these conversations, these styles, these approaches, styles in marketing. I mean, from my perspective, I'll be talking a lot about video marketing, but there's also psychological, uncomfortable component to it. And it brings up a lot of crap. It brings up a lot of stuff in us, you know? And so that's also a psychological factor in your marketing, because let's face it, a lot of us are moving into the private practice world, group practice world, and that is scary crap. And I'm telling you now, And I did a live streaming video today about psychotherapists moving away from psychotherapy, loving psychotherapy, but moving into it and helping the community in many ways, like consulting, private practice building, group practice. Those things are okay. It's still good for the community.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the conversations we had about who's the ideal person to join us in this therapy movement is people who've been told by a professor, a supervisor, a former boss that, no, your idea isn't going to work. That's not what therapists do. And we really want therapy movement to be about, let's make those ideas work. Let's make them ethical. Let's make them legal. But the more of a diversity of not just gender and race and age and anything else, but the diversity of ideas and the approaches to doing things is good for the profession.
Yeah.
And I think people who have felt silenced in any way or disregarded or ignored in any way, because I think so many times, and I know this is kind of personally, I've had this experience, but so many times when I've stood up and said, I have a big idea, or I'm an ambitious helper, or, and I love you're not a typical psychotherapist stuff, Ernesto, and you're going to have, one of those powerful 15-minute talks about that too. But I think it's that piece of people who stand up in our profession oftentimes are whack-a-mole down. You're too big for your britches, young lady. And I think it's something where being able to honor people who don't need to be in the spotlight, but also people who do, and who have big voices and big things, and saying, honor yourself and honor who you are, and enter the therapy room and however you need to enter it, and enter other things like consulting or putting on a conference or doing a podcast or whatever, like do the things that are going to change the world, because we were behind you. We got your back.
Yeah. And this is amazing stuff. Again, for those of you who are watching, please click on the website, register now. Do not wait, because I'm hoping and I'm expecting this to be sold out. I mean, seriously, you've got beautiful individuals in there who are changers, who are, I don't want to say controversial, but edgy. They allow you to be different, right? They allow you, and they actually model this idea of, if you're creative, you got big ideas, what is it? How can we make that happen for you and still hold the psychotherapy name? So this is a really, really fun movement. Katie, Kurt, thank you so much for being on. Any last words before I sign off?
No, we just want to see as many people in real life as we can. It'd be awesome.
And really, our ultimate goal is that #therapy movement is something where Katie and I, it's not us at the front of it, it's all of us together, and that this is really about developing a community that we are able to go in the direction of making it okay to be a therapist.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, please come. I want to meet you guys. You got to meet Katie. You got to meet Kurt. Look at the list of people that's going to go. They are personable people. They love meeting others. They love creating big ideas.
Come on, we're friendly.
Come on. If anything, just come out. Let's have fun, you guys. So again, this is Ernesto, Katie, and Kurt. We will see you at the Therapy Reimagined conference.
Awesome.
Awesome, you guys. Bye-bye. Thank you.